Hi, this is Jacqueline with Nickel and Dime Decor, and it's time to do another mini block. Today, our pattern is called Broken Dishes. Maybe you're familiar with that block. This is one I've already done. Whether you put it on the diagonal or put it like this, if you'll notice the square within the square. This is called Broken Dishes. And I made it into a mug rug, which I do with all of my samples when I'm making a block before I ever come to you. And I am making all these mug rugs. I belong to a group at my church, and there's going to be about 30 women there, and I want to be able to give them a mug rug for Christmas. So all of my sample blocks are going to be made into mug rugs. Now this is a 4.5 inch, and the other mini blocks we've been doing are finished 5.5 before they're sewn around the edges, finished to 5, but this is only finished to 4.5. So I want to give you some ideas for all these mini blocks. Did you know this would make a beautiful, beautiful border if you put all of them together in different colors, whatever you're working on. And say you've got 5 or 6, 7 different fabrics. Make a combination different for each one and vary all of your blocks and make a beautiful border. Just sew them all together lengthwise and horizontal and make your outside borders. Or put 4 of these together, since they're 4.5, and you would have a real big nice hot pad, and put some of that Insel Bright in it along. This has batting. It's not hand quilted yet. I will do some little hand quilting on it. Most of the time I do that before I put the back on. But I went ahead and put the back on just so you could see. But I'll just do a little stitching, just 1/4 inch from the edges on all of this. It just adds something to it. Okay, I'm going to set up the camera, and I'll just show you a picture in the book of Broken Dishes. It's only 2 fabrics. They are 3 1/8 inch squares. 2 of each fabric, 2 squares. 3 1/8 inch, 2 fabrics, 2 squares to each fabric. That's all you need. So you go find that real fast and you can make it with me. All right, we'll be back in a minute, and we're going to be cutting half square triangles. There's much easier ways to do this than what the book calls for, but since it's just doing such a small little block, we're going to do it like the book says. It wants you to take your 3 1/8 inch squares and cut them into halves. 2 squares of each fabric. So I've done that, and I've got 4 of my half triangles. And I got 2 of those. Now, you put it on your 45-degree line right across from point to point. And there you have your triangles. I'm going to sew them together. And since you've got these sharp little points, be sure that you have your feeder going into your machine, and then place this up there because it's too hard with a sharp point like that to sew. So you take one fabric, one of the other, right sides together, and position them just perfect. Absolutely perfect. And then sew your 1/4 inch seam. Put your needle over one position left so that you get a scant 1/4 inch seam, and we'll sew all 4 sets of them. All of my triangles are sewn together, and I forgot to tell you that I like to spray them before I sew, when I press them at first. With this, it just makes it makes for good straight sewing. It helps you keep your seams good. It works so good if you'll use it. Spray it first when you first press it, and now they're nice and got a little bit of body to it. Okay, we're going to set our seams, which means you just go like that over each one. Then we're going to open them, and don't finger press a whole lot, just enough to open it a little to get you started, because these now are on the bias, so you want to be careful. Now that I've opened it up, I am going to press my seams open instead of having to butt them together. I'm just going to sew them open. You just go right down just like that. Then just put your iron on it. Don't be rubbing back and forth. It makes for a little bit easier matching your seams. In this case, it's not always the case, but in this case it is. Don't worry about the little tails on the end. We're not going to cut them yet. You just don't need to take the time to do it. My fabrics are not the most exciting that I picked for this, but you know, your blacks and grays and whites are so popular right now. It's in every decor, practically. You go into a new home, that's what you see. Not my thing, but it is for a lot of people. Until a new fad comes along. And it'll be something else. Okay, we now have 4 blocks. Now I have to get my book and look at it to see how they go. We're going to call this, in the book, it's blue and pink. And I'm going to call that Let's see. Okay, that's how it's going to go. I know it's not sewn together, but can you see the square within the square? Right there, it's the square within the square. Then you know you got it positioned right. When you can see that. I don't know if you know what an Ohio star square looks like, but that's kind of what this is right here. Is an Ohio star. Then what you're going to do is sew the top and the bottom and sew this one together, just like this and just like this. And I always just pin it and take it over to the machine so I know where I'm sewing, because by the time you carry it over there, you forget. So we're just putting a pin there, and we know. Now, at this point, you can trim these off. If it's much easier to have those out of the way, trim them off. We're going to sew those two pieces together, and then we will butt them together and sew again. So let me get these two sewed, and then we'll come right. Here's my two pieces sewn together. They haven't been pressed yet. Next, I'm going to press them, and then we're going to fold this over and sew this seam right here. Now, when you sew these together, when you fold it over, be sure that you match your seams. Don't worry about this and the ends, but you want to be sure that you've got that matched. I don't pin it, but you just keep your finger right there and be sure that your seams do not move on you. The block is sewn together. There's the square within the square. And see how your points, if you sew a little scant inch, you'll still have your points. And you're going to have to sew a scant 4/4 of an inch to get that right there. Now we're going to square it up to 5 inches finished. And then when you sew around whatever you're going to do with it, it will finish 4.5 inches. I don't hardly have anything to trim. It's pretty much 5 inches. But we have just a tiny bit. And if you note, righty. Whoops, one more. And then we are done. And, you know, remember, I'm making my banner with these. And I'm just going to add solid black as my border, like I've been doing. But for those of you that are new, let me go get my blocks and to show you. This is what I'm talking about. I've made all these different blocks. This was sawtooth, and I've just put a 1.5 inch border around all of them. Now these were 5.5 and 5 inches finished. And now we're starting on 4.5 inch. I haven't decided whether I'm going to add more border or leave them at 4.5 and put them in between these banner across my fireplace. This is the spool. And now, broken dishes. I hope you can see, I know the pattern is so busy, but I like it. I love the way this makes it in the center. Broken dishes. Please try it and make one. And find out ways you can use all of these blocks. A cute little wall hanging with a whole bunch of them added together would be cute. And since they're all so different, you wouldn't have to worry about sashing, I don't think. Alrighty, thank you so much for watching. God bless.